This podcast is not safe for work and will feature movie spoilers. It will feature scenes described of a graphic nature. It will contain language which most listeners may find offensive. Welcome to the podcast Under the Stairs. Hi everyone and welcome to the podcast Under the Stairs. This is your Christmas Eve episode. I'm going to say Merry Christmas now because I know that my Christmas Day tends to be fueled by alcohol, and I sometimes forget that you guys exist because my kids and my family demand so much of my attention that I might not post it in the Facebook group page. So what I'm going to say is, if you're checking this out right now, Merry Christmas. If Christmas has already passed, then a belated Merry Christmas. And if you do not celebrate Christmas, then I hope you're having a phenomenal holiday, time off work. Unless you're in retail and you're all stressed out, I'm hoping that you get a break soon and your customers are knowledgeable and not requiring your assistance. On this Christmas Eve episode, I am bringing something oh so special to you. There's a couple of firsts here, right? The biggest first is my co-host here. You can see him on the screen. He is, and we've worked this back. In the 11 years that I've been doing podcasts Under the Stairs, I've never had a Christmas Eve episode that hasn't just been either myself, or myself and Baz. It's always been that way. I don't know why it's always been that way. I'm going to say because it's easy for me to record with Baz in my time zone and the fact that it lives relatively close. So this is the first time we're doing another person. Not only that, this is the first time we're doing a Christmas Eve episode with someone in a different country. Not only that, this is the first time we're doing a Christmas Eve episode with someone in another country who has also only ever been on the podcast Under the Stairs as part of elongated, convoluted series. So, with that in mind, allow me to introduce my guest to you from the Joe Blow Horror Show. It is my good buddy Cole. Cole, how the hell are you doing?
What's up, buddy? Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everybody out there listening. I'm pumped. I am pumped. And I was gonna tell you this pre-show, but I'm like, this might be good content. So I'm coming off the heels of just doing another Christmas episode with the nightclub yesterday, and the two movies are similar, and you won't believe what the nightclub did for their Christmas episode. It was a Serbian film, so holy moly, happy holidays to me, because I'm coming. You did
tell me that this was a thing, and I think when you did, like, you told me a while ago you were going to be doing this as a Christmas episode, and I do remember saying, who picks that as a Christmas episode? In hindsight now, I'm not in a place to, like, this is a glass house and I shouldn't be throwing stones, is what I'm saying, right? That's insane. Was that your first time viewing that movie?
No, actually, when we were dumb, naive, new podcasters on the Joe Blow Horror Show, before Tibu was there, my brother-in-law, when he was with, he was like, hey, I heard about this movie, a Serbian film, you want to cover it? Me knowing nothing about it, I'm like, sure. And, you know, I'm the type of guy where I don't do trailers, I don't do any kind of research. Yep. So I watched that and sat in an acid bath for about 3 days to clean myself.
Well, we've got a history. The weird thing about it is, so I think, and I'm still sure about this, I'm sure people on the internet will correct me, but I'm sure that the version of the Serbian film that is still technically legal in the UK isn't the version that you guys have. So I think you have a more uncut version, similar to Cannibal Holocaust, where I think there's still minutes cut out of that movie that are available. Not that I haven't seen the uncut version, but there's minutes cut out there. I've got a history with that movie. My history with the movie is, it's not that I dislike it. I appreciate what it does. I appreciate its placement in horror, its importance in horror. Very similar to Cannibal Holocaust. I don't like its execution. I think there's a couple of... I can see the strings, so to speak, in a couple of scenes, which kind of takes me out of it. And the director didn't do himself any favours when he did interviews in the UK, where he was like that, oh, I'm highlighting the, you know, the brutal system that exists in our country where mercenaries and the government all in, but no, you made an exploitation movie, and just lean in on that, because you actually made... As exploitation movies go, you made a really fucking good one. So just own that shit. But I found through podcasting with Americans specifically, that movie holds an importance, I think, more because you didn't have the same scandal we had over here with it. Like, it was all over newspapers and all. Like, when a movie it takes a lot for a movie to get banned in the UK, and it will instantly draw comparisons to video nasties and all the rest, which is basically, if a movie gets banned in the UK, that's a giant like neon sign saying, watch this movie. Right. Like, you know, like,
it's great advertising.
100%. And all those movies, if you've listened to Doing the Nasty, my video nasties, but all those movies are like, literally, they were all bought more than they should be. Most of them are utter fucking trash, but they hold an importance, a historical importance now, as a list of 72 movies that people kind of feel like as a rite of passage you have to check out, when realistically only maybe 15 of them are actually great. The movie I picked for us to discuss, and this was on a whim, and it has been, I'm going to stress this again, it's been covered more than once by me on various podcasts, at least once on Podcasts Under the Stairs, but I get giddy when I know people haven't seen it, because it makes me want to make them watch it in a weird kind of almost Clockwork Orange, eyes pinned open sort of way. But also, it is apt because this movie is actually set at Christmas. Technically is a Christmas horror movie. Never appears on any Christmas horror movie list, though. Like, ever.
You're right. I've never seen it on one, and for the Joe Blow's Christmas special, I did a lot of research for ideas, and then I'm like, I never saw this on there. I wonder why.
Hopefully by the end of it you realise why. It's one that doesn't, I think, because you see all the Christmas content in the first 5 minutes and then the movie right turns away from that pretty quick, I think people forget, but the duration of this movie is set over Christmas. The movie we're going to be discussing, you've seen it in the description, you know from the artwork, is Calvaire. This, aka in English, is The Ordeal, which is aptly named. It is directed, this is a Belgian-French production, and it's a hugely important one. I think people forget the context of this. This came out in 2004, which actually, when it came out, means that it's on the cusp of, if not the movie, which you can link right back to the beginning of the new wave of French extremity. Like, pretty much all the titles that you would associate with that, whether it's Inside, Martyrs, Frontiers, like, etc., beyond that, came out post this movie. So it's like a kind of initial example of that region cinema leaning into being something maybe worth checking out. It's directed by Fabrice Duels, who has done a couple of other things that are worth checking out. A la Carta is one that I would recommend. If you want, it's a kind of remake of the Honeymoon Killings. So it's a really good bit of cinema. He's kind of went off doing stuff that I'm not aware of. I believe that there was rumours he's going to be doing another movie, but he's an interesting filmmaker, to say the least. He has also a tendency to
I was looking through, after I saw this, I went through his catalog there, and if I'm being honest, I didn't recognize anything.
No, like, absolutely nothing. And he's busy. He is one of these guys that is like, not a job for hire sort of guy, but he's out there doing shit. You know, he's directing stuff. The genre stuff, it's kind of in between. A lot of that stuff doesn't, like, if you remove the TV stuff, is just not making its way over here, and I don't hear much about it, so I don't know how great it is. But Alacarda was the follow-up to this, and I genuinely thought it was a fucking great movie. But it is essentially a remake of The Honeymoon Killers from 1950, 60, 70 something. An old movie. I own it somewhere in my Arrow collection, and I've watched it a couple of times, and it's really, really, really good. And it's the same main character actor here who kind of works his way over. Let's give a little bit of detail before we jump into the trailer, and I'm also going to give a little bit of context there. So, Fabrice Duel's director, based on the screenplay by Fabrice Duels and Roman Protat. The movie itself stars Lawrence Lucas, Brigitte Lehane, Gigi Coruscant, I think that's how you pronounce that, Jean-Luc, not Picard, Couchard, rhymes, so it may as well be the next captain of the Enterprise, Jackie Barrorio, Filipino, Philippe Grand-Henri, Joe Prestia, Mark Liff something, Alfred David, and some other folk. To be honest, there's a lot of background characters here. You don't need to know them. The synopsis for the movie is Mark, a traveling entertainer, is on his way home from Christmas. He is literally driving home for Christmas, and he can't wait to see those faces. When his van breaks down in the middle of a jerkwater town with some strange inhabitants, which I will say to IMDb is literally the most mild way of putting forward how crazy these townspeople actually are. I first encountered this movie fucking years ago. So this is well before I started podcasting. And this was on the back of it played Dead by Dawn, which is a kind of horror festival in Edinburgh. I didn't see it there, but I remember reading reviews of it and people being genuinely kind of like, what the fuck did we just walk into? And it took a while to work its way onto the internet in a way that I could see it. So we're maybe talking 2007, 2008 that I finally caught Calvaire for the first time. And I watched it, and to say that I was disturbed is an understatement. Like, I think the first time I watched this, the closest I can liken this movie in a first viewing experience was when I was 18, and I bought myself a half bottle of Jack Daniels, as a responsible 18-year-old will do in my country anyway, not yours, because it's not breaking the law.
Right?
Yeah, 18 in the UK.
16 is a legal drinking age over there?
18 over here, although we start young. And I remember buying this half bottle of Jack Daniels on Halloween of the year that I turned 18. Because Channel 4 in the UK were playing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time on our TV. It was a banned movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was banned up until 2002 in the UK, or heavily censored. And it was finally getting played on TV, and I'd never seen it before. And I was like, I'm going to do this right. Parents are away, half bottle of whiskey. Yeah. Let me do this. And I'd already drank a lot of it before the movie came on. And I sat in what can only be described as abject terror while the Texas... I'd never fucking seen anything like that in my entire... And I'd watched like movies that I consider comparably a lot more graphic. Like, I'd seen Last House on the Left, I'd seen I Spit in Your Grave, things like that, where the lines between Cannibal Holocaust, the lines between reality and, you know, essentially fantasy are blurred. But I'd never seen something where the entire movie felt like a fever dream. And Texas, like, to this day, I watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre and my brain feels like it's got fire ants on it. It just feels like it's crawling all the way through. There's just something inherently surreal about that movie. And I'd never seen anything that had made me feel just uncomfortable in my skin from start to finish until I watched Calvaire. And I was like almost a decade older when I finally sat down to watch this movie. And it finished, and I the first viewing, I was not traumatized, but I just kind of felt like someone had someone had literally just went like that. What will upset Duncan, and can we put it all in a movie? I came to several years later, redid it again. Podcast Under the Stairs had started by then. We have done episodes on it, and every time I watch it, I kind of, as game respects game, every time I watch it, I find another bit where I'm like, that the choice to do that one scene is pivotal to the next 20 minutes of the movie, or the fact that he did this one thing, or that guy says one sentence, makes me love it a little bit more. It's why I push it to so many people. And when we jump into a review, I am wanting to get initial impressions directly from you, because that's the bit that makes me giddy. It's the vicarious part of me that wants to get that initial review to see how close it aligns with how I felt when I watched it. But ladies and gentlemen, we are doing Calvaire for you, which I'm going to be honest, if it's not on your Christmas movie list, I understand why, if you know what it's about. If it isn't, maybe take a punt. You know what? Get the family, after the turkey dinner, get the family round the TV. And instead of watching Christmas Vacation, which you should also watch, maybe double it up with Calvaire. And I want your thoughts and comments on the Facebook group page after. We are going to take a short break. You are going to get the trailer for the movie. When we return, myself and Cole are going to get deep in Calvaire right after this. And welcome back, ladies and gents. Cole, you had an assignment. That assignment was that you had to watch this movie, which was a first-time watch for you. I am right on this.
Yes.
Excellent. When the credits ran at the end of the movie, without going into any detail or whatever, I am curious on your initial feelings for the movie, and then we'll jump into what essentially made up those feelings overall. So, overall thoughts on Calvaire?
Well, I was already feeling disgusting after watching a Serbian film yesterday and then recording about it and then getting up this morning and, a good Sunday morning, had some breakfast and a coffee, and I'm like, I'm going to go downstairs to the movie room and I'm going to pop on Calvaire, not knowing anything about it. Didn't read a single synopsis, and after what we see in the first 10 minutes, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, okay, it's gonna be another one of these. Let's go, buckle up.
Thanks, Duncan.
I was almost gonna snap you, but I'm like, I better save it for the show. I'm like, oh yeah, just trudging through French Deliverance here, so.
Oh, you're hitting sweet spots right now with me. It's a weird one because like I said before, the alternative title for English speaking nations is The Ordeal, which to me kind of makes sense. If I went into a movie called The Ordeal, I am sitting down expecting something that is going to be an ordeal to get through. Calvaire just seems, I don't know, kind of nice. Like the translate. Like, I don't even know if it's a direct translation. To me, it just feels like something that is like to English ears non-threatening. And like you mentioned, this movie wastes like next to no time, like really hitting its stride. And I was going to say, a lot of people are that, well, and then the car breaks down, and then it ends up with the innkeeper, and then things get weird. And I would argue that things get weird, like, within 2 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
Like people yada, yada, yada over the whole, let's be honest, like almost full-on sex penetration of just orderlies in an old folks home, as if it's nothing. And like to me, that's the key to the movie being like, if this is normality, it's off to the side. It's direction, its temperament, and its storytelling is designed almost from the beginning to be something that makes you feel a little bit uneasy. Listen, if you want to finger a granny, you go ahead and do it. I will I will not argue with you, but the movie kind of leans into that pretty quick, and you're like, I don't know if this is nothing I should be watching at this time of year. And then it continues to get weirder, stranger. Some people will argue that there are sexual assault scenes that are the strangest most often. The dance sequence in the pub with the piano that's not being played right, and the fact that everyone is like doing some sort of weird version of Thriller, is one of the most unsettling things in cinema. You just feel like, why are we here? Why is the camera still here? Why is this guy not run away? This is the weirdest fucking thing I've seen, and everyone's in on it. And when you realise the whole time it's kind of, for lack of a better word, weird. It just makes it like no interaction with any character can be taken at face value. You're constantly questioning everything throughout the movie. And then the ending, which we will get to at the end of our review, has kind of almost like the best new wave of French extremity stuff. Kind of has maybe one or two meanings depending on how you look at it. It's kind of almost like you could take it this way, where he is kind of glad to be where he is, and there's another part whereas you could be sad where he is, like almost like the town has corrupted his very thought. And actually, this place, he has a weird longing to be. It's very, very, very strange. But Cole. You came out of a Serbian film, radiant and high on life. You were just like, the world is nice, everyone is great to each other, goodwill to all men, and joy to the world. And then you jumped into this movie, and this movie made you feel even more, I don't know, and imbued with the Christmas spirit. I am curious though, in terms of this one, in terms of just breaking it down. It's a short movie. This one is like, it's under an hour and a half. Like we mentioned before, a couple of minutes, and you're really into his car is not working. He's now at the inn. Hit me with it. How did you find, notwithstanding the overall view, how did you find Calvaire? Think about things like, how did it flow, storytelling, acting, and you've watched a few, must have watched a few French extremity movies inside that we mentioned before, and this being at the cusp, thinking about that artistic style being so different from what we watch, just give me a feel. Give me a feel. Talk to me.
Okay, so at first, again, being so non-familiar with this film, I started it and I paused it after a couple minutes, and I'm like, am I watching the right one? Because it had that grainy, it felt like I was watching a VHS from the 80s.
Oh god, yeah.
I love that aesthetic with it. One of the things that really, after I watched the film and I was kind of digesting it, that I really was kind of impressed with was the writing and the acting of Mark in his character, because there's so many different scenarios that he was put in. And the film did a really good job as far as giving you kind of like, is it going to go this way or is it going to go this way? And you know, just with the interaction with the grandma in the beginning, with the lady, the blonde lady who hired him, you're like, you know what? He is actually like a really down to earth, like good person. You know, he's got these like temptations. You know, so again, I think I might have been looking a little bit deeper into it than I normally would, coming off the heels of a Serbian film. But, you know, I was like, you know, I mean, that's bad things happen to good people. When you kind of juxtapose that with the whole holiday thing, it kind of hits home a little bit more, you know. So, But yeah, the pacing, I thought, overall was, I mean, it was, what, an 88-minute movie. For me, there were a couple spots where it lulled, but
It slows down deliberately, yeah.
yeah, yep. But there were some pretty powerful scenes that lingered, as far as that goes. So, but yeah.
Yeah, so essentially what we're doing is we're following, like I mentioned in the synopsis, an entertainer who is leaving what we'll describe as a corporate function at Christmas for like an old folks home. On his way back, he's traveling through a particularly wooded area, and his car breaks down, and he's kind of stuck and stumbles across a kind of local, I'm going to say innkeeper, because that's the word that best describes what this elderly guy is, who offers him not only a room to stay in, but that he will himself organise repair of his vehicle. So he's kind of stuck on the outskirts of this kind of Lynchian town, is the only way to describe it.
Yeah.
Like, no one talks like a normal person. Everyone interacts in a way which just feels non-human. And as he stays there, we get more information from the innkeeper, specifically around the fact that his wife at some point has left him, if she ever existed. But she's left him, and through a series of, I was going to say unfortunate events, I don't know if that's correct, but a series of interactions, the innkeeper becomes of the belief that this guy, this entertainer whose vehicle is broken down, is actually his lost wife. And everything becomes uncomfortable there, as you can imagine. But it's not only that, we start to realise that everyone in the town is also of the same delusion, that he might actually be this kind of lost partner. This is also a town where they are very familiar with their livestock. Is that a nice way of saying pig fuckers?
Yep, yeah, they're really close. One of the things that I really liked with the character of Bartel was the circles the film was doing around you, because when you first meet, obviously seasoned horror vets, you're like, okay, this guy's bad news.
Yeah, straight away, like the first time he comes on the screen, you're like, that, don't trust this guy.
Yep. But then there's just that tiny little smidgen of hope of maybe he's not a bad guy, and because they're they dangle the carrot for you as a viewer, and he's warning, don't go into town. So you're like, okay, well, maybe he's just a poor lonely old man and he's trying to protect him from town. Obviously, don't go into town. What's he going to do? He's going to go into town. And then you circle back, and then he does something where you're like, okay, it seems like he's purposely not getting the vehicle, but maybe he's lonely, and and then he's warning him again, and it just kind of takes you on this little, I mean, you're going up and down these little roller coaster hills as far as like, what's this character's motivations? And then ultimately what you in the back of your head told yourself in the very beginning, you're like, yep, okay.
I called it, even though I doubted it. The thing about it is, on subsequent viewings, if you ever come back to watch this movie again, you will like look at scenes trying to analyze specifics that might not necessarily, you're forensically trying to look at scene by scene evidence to justify certain things that happen later in the movie, and I found myself finding those things, and then on the subsequent viewing almost discrediting my findings, like a private investigator crawling through a cold case, going, the police thought this guy did it. Well, he clearly didn't do it. Only till like a year later on, come back to the case file and go, actually, he may have done it. Is that I love those interactions, those weavings around it, but like the movie is set in such a way that you are at character level all the way through this. You're with the main protagonist throughout the movie, and as a result, all those weaves and dodges and interactions, you're almost put in his shoes. How would I react if someone said this to me? And you're kind of almost like almost doing the kind of cliche black woman in a cinema We're like, get away, like jump it, like go away from him. Don't speak to that guy. Don't go in the house. Don't go up the stairs. Like you're doing that because you're that connected on that level where everything is so weird. And some stuff plays out to be, in the long run, correct. Maybe not the way you saw it. Like specifically how the way the movie ends. You could imagine that had he just followed the innkeeper's advice from start to finish, things might not have been as terrible for him. But at the same time, there is we're getting the reaction of the innkeeper to what has happened, which isn't necessarily the way he would have reacted had he had him for the full time in there. So the more you, and the movie is smart in that it's, like you mentioned before, it doesn't have a 88 minutes. It releases its secrets in kind of not the quickest succession, but in ways where the more layers you peel back, the more doors you open essentially in this village, the more you're confronted with things that are just inherently weird. And clearly not weird to the town, but as an outsider, fucking strange. You know what I mean?
Question for you. So,
right.
Clearly leaves all the women folk smitten, right? From the one lady, the old lady that comes in the beginning, that's, wanting him to give her a goodbye, whatever.
A nice goodbye.
To, the blonde that hired him. Yep. So my question is I was kind of a little bit surprised when Bartel opens that envelope and there's pictures of her in there. So like in my brain's telling me that either, that's kind of one of those things that there really doesn't mean a lot, or maybe that I had a hard time trying to pin down the actor of Mark. I mean, did he do a really good job, or was he kind of flat? I mean, was he supposed to portray someone with a little bit more charisma? What are your thoughts on that?
I think there are some people out there. Let me liken it to something that's happening in the world right now. There is a lot of people right now who are borderline obsessed with an assassin in America right now, a monobrowed assassin, let's specify this, who killed like the CEO of some health company in New York. And there are women right now absolutely destroying their bean, like with their fingers, just like going to town over this image of this guy who I look at and I just see a plain dough-faced man. Yep. And I think that there are people out there that have an aura about them that just makes them not only necessarily attractive, but just like important that might not be. And it might be something lacking charisma, it might be body language, it might be looks, it might be like the way they present themselves, it might be the way they walk. He's an entertainer, but he's an entertainer that entertains old people. You know what I mean? Right. He's not, you know what I mean? He's not like
he's also clearly looks like he's in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, after work they go to the bar and they see the same 5 guys. So
100%.
Yep.
He's like a
year, and they're like, oh my god, Mark's coming with his pipes.
I got the feeling that in terms of where he was in the old folks' home, there's a part of that where people are just starved for attention by people that are younger, even though he's not that much younger than the woman that hires him. I think when it comes to the town, and like as you see the town is kind of devoid of actual female presence. And he is, compared to the majority of the people in there, he is younger, but I also think he is different. And there's a part of me that feels that maybe this town has already done the rounds on everyone, and he is new. And something that's new, regardless whether or not it is attractive, engaging, entertaining, or even like sexually interesting, is different. And sometimes different is, it's the same way that I'll occasionally, wildly, like Russian roulette, click on a YouPorn video or a Pornhub video that might not necessarily be the thing that I'm into, because it's different. And I know for a fact that if it's different, it's probably going to get me there. It might get me there quicker.
Yep.
May get away with it. Who knows? Let's just click it and see how we get on. And sometimes you find something that you did not know actually gets you to shoot time quicker. And sometimes you realise that on paper something's like, yeah, this is going to be sexy. And you click it and you watch, and you're like, that this is horrific. I will never get a boner again. Why did I do that? I think there's a part where, because he is... it's kind of twofold. One, because he is not the norm. He's the outsider at the town. Yeah. There's a part that they're attracted to that. I also think that there's another part where the town is clearly delusional on everything. It's kind of like they're almost stuck in their own little loop of almost like a time capsule of what things are. And the weird thing about it is that the innkeeper believes that this is his wife, either reincarnated or this is her returned, because he's so tragically lonely. That's what he believes. But actually, when he gets into the town, other people recognize him the same way, which is the weird thing, which does kind of make it throws the question up that the movie will never answer. The ending tries to ambiguously. Yeah. Is there something about the quality of Mark as a character which resembles the original wife? Or is this just a case of, if anyone stumbles across this town, they're getting dicked? I don't know.
Yep. Oh, Gloria.
Yeah. Oh, Gloria. Because it's... If I've jumped to the end, even though I don't want to, but like the end of this movie, when he's in the quicksand and he is where he is, there's a part of him that is almost reticent to escape. Like there's a weird part of him that, and I've had this argument many times, where like I could read the ending very similar to the ending in Martyrs, where I come out of that, right? He either, what was said to him on the call, right? What was said to her on the call is either, like, there is life after death and this proves it, or there is no life after death. And there's no way to know as the audience, and technically how you almost your belief system, how you view cinema or how you view the entire movie will impact the assessment of that last scene, right? That's how that's set out.
You know, the one thing about that scene that I'm still flabbergasted is, how the hell did they do that? That wasn't CGI snow. That was real snow. That was swamp. You can only imagine that guy was literally, submersing himself in that icy cold water in the middle of nowhere.
Fucking cold, horrible, grim water.
Wow. Yeah. That scene blew my mind. 2004, it ain't using CGI. So
oh god, no. Well, the budget, this movie was made for like I think it was under $1.5 million. So like they didn't have that. So he is. It makes me once again, it makes me respect the actors. I mean, the process. But dude, you're right. This is outdoors. This is not in a studio.
Yeah. I bravo to that guy, because that takes some cojones.
Yeah, your cojones are not visible if you're in water that cold.
Fuck it up, because we're gonna do this in one take.
Yeah. If ever there was a one and done scene, this is like the scene where they have to blow up a building or someone sets himself on fire. You're like, you get one shot at this realistically, and if you don't do it, then it's gonna be a long fucking night. But there is a part of me that, like I say, it leans back on the ending of, does he have Stockholm syndrome at the end of this movie? Is he literally, everything I've been through as part of this ordeal makes me opine to be back with Bartel at the end? Or is it the other way? Is it like actually he's relieved to be where he is and he feels he's going to get out? And the movie doesn't commit in the best way. It's such a cop-out, I feel personally, and I know a lot of people like definitive endings, but I think when you've made a movie where a character has been through such a traumatic experience, that sometimes having that, it's why, like, In a Violent Nature, it's why people don't like the ending of In a Violent Nature. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I understand what it's aiming for. When the character escapes the killer and then you get a protracted scene of them in a car driving away, spoilers for the end of that movie, and they're driving away and there's just a lot of kind of meaningless, relatively dry dialogue. That's what happens at the end of a slasher movie. You know what I mean? When someone escapes a killer and is picked up by someone on the road, it's not like it's not an exciting time. It's a mundane conversation where that person is trying to keep you alive until you get to the hospital. That's what happens in that scene, and that movie gives you that as the ending. So to me, Calvaire, in a weird way, circumnavigates the expectation of and then he escapes and gets to a car and drives away, and it actually leaves you with this guy is now psychologically scarred from what he's went through, the ordeal that he's went through, and that sometimes doesn't result in going back to normal life. Sometimes that results in a character being emotionally broken and damaged, or weirdly kind of sympathizing with the position that he's been in, and it leaves that door open. And to me, that's it's a smarter move than just going and then he escapes or then he dies, or like that kind of putting a bow on it, definitive, like closed ending. This movie it spends so much time kind of making the audience question what they're saying, that to give that definitive ending almost kind of feels like either lazy writing or trying to give people something that I don't think the filmmakers actually want to do. It's more, I use this as a term a lot when I describe certain movies, more nowadays actually than I did in the past. But this is a movie which is an experience movie. It's kind of like, it's like when you go into a haunted house, or in America, as you do, go on these weird like experience things at Halloween where you go through a haunted maze or whatever, and you go through it for the experience. You don't go through it because you want everything to be tied up at the end in a nice neat bow and to be like, well, that was swell and made sense. You go through it because you want to feel something, and Calvaire makes you feel something. If it makes you feel uneasy or unhappy or grossed out or titillated, if that's your want, that's kind of what the movie's going for. It's not a movie that's predicated on this movie better stick to landing. It's not a Shyamalan movie. You know what I mean? It's not like that. Wait for the twist. It's a kind of this. You've went through this experience and everything we've given you, and this is where the character is at the end, broken. And it could go one or two ways, and it's up to you as the audience, having went through the same experience at eye level, to decide which way you interpret it at the fork road. And I kind of love that shit. That to me it's kind of art house, but it's also the kind of stuff that I gravitate to. I don't like black and white. I don't like binary 1-2. I like things that when I get to the end, that I kind of feel to myself, what would I have done? How do I feel after going through the experience with the character? Few movies do it as well as Calvaire, even though Calvaire, and you mentioned it before, has its faults. Like the lulls in this movie are lulls where they are deliberate, but they are still lulls where things move. Like he's walking around the inn trying to do a bit of discovery, or he's having conversations with people that might not actually lead to something, but you're so uneasy you expect a big revelation that you don't get. It's probably more normal to have those conversations and not have those big reveals, because that's what it's like. But in movie terms, conversations are important between characters, so they should deliver. So there are lulls in this movie. It ain't a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I always end up at the end, and it's weird how many times I've ended up at the end sequence and been like that. Oh, he wants to go back. No, he wants to escape. Oh, he wants to go back. No, he wants to escape. And what the difference is what I've done that day, or the meal that I ate before, the conversation that I had with my wife beforehand. It influences how I go into the movie and ultimately how I get to the end. Where did you land at the end? Are you after that viewing, were you like there's a tragic part of him that wants to go back, or there's the survival thing kicked in hardcore and he wants to be gone? What did you think?
Yeah, so I think that he was in, like you said, survival instinct is the term I would use. I don't think he knew what he was doing, where he was going. I think he was just like in a comatose, like literally fight or flight kind of deal, and he was just wandering.
Yeah.
I didn't really get that he wanted to go back. I mean, I felt it interesting when you started talking about the Stockholm syndrome, because that didn't really occur to me. But
it's the bit that everyone disagrees with. I don't know if it's because like I see too much in this. I might just be that guy that is constantly looking for like the contrarian view on movies, and I would get that. Like to me, Lake Mungo. You've seen Lake Mungo?
no.
Right. Well, Late Mungo, we're going to do Late Mungo at some point, right? We're going to do it, right? But Late Mungo ends in a way where I have a view on Late Mungo's ending that no one else has, right? And I have enough evidence to prove that more than enough evidence to prove that my ending not only does it make sense, it fits the movie, and like without speaking to the director, is the ending.
See, I love having those conversations.
Yeah, but no one else that I've ever spoken to, articles I've read on the internet, YouTube videos I have watched, has come down on that one. But I am so convinced I'm right on it that it's scary, and we will do that. I did not know you hadn't seen that movie.
No.
We will fucking do that movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. So we will do that movie.
Is that the one with Henry Cavill?
No.
Okay.
So, like, Late Mungo is essentially it's like a found footage movie from Australia.
Okay.
So to be honest, it's more popular now. When it came out, no one had seen it, right? It came out as part of that America. Like in America, they had those. What was it, like 7 movies to see before you die, or whatever? It was every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out as part of that. Over in the UK, it didn't have a big landing at all, and it's only found traction in the last 5 years, where sites like Bloody Disgusting are like movies that you should see that you haven't seen, like that sort of thing, where it's like word of mouth has spun it on. I think as kind of full documentaries go, is maybe one of the best ever made.
I've heard of it. I just, like I said, I try to stay away from it because I know that it's a movie that I need to see. So,
well, if ever there was an excuse to do it, the greatest excuse to do a movie that you haven't seen, like Calvaire, is to come on the podcast Under the Stairs. So we will set that up for next year, and I am so looking forward to it. And then I will put out my huge red web conspiracy theory board of this is what this means at the end, and you can be like everyone else, go respectfully and say, Duncan, that's not how the movie ended. You know what? I just don't see it. So we will make that happen. To me, I don't know. There's a part of me that just feels like there's something in the way the character acts, and there's something specifically in his eyes where I'm like that. He wants to go back, but I flip-flopped on that viewing to viewing. So one viewing I'm like that, he wants to go back, and the next one I'm like that, he is. Like you said, survivor mode. He will literally do fucking anything right now. If there is a baby in front of him and he has to stand on it to get over that baby to get to freedom, that baby is being trodden on. And it's interesting to go that. Was there a scene in this movie which legitimately made you go, oh, holy fuck? Can you put your finger on one?
I mean, there was one that I wasn't expecting, and it was when he went into town. Just, sadly though, as soon as they started talking about how soft the mouth is, I'm like, oh god. And then you see the guy pull his pants down. I'm like, oh, good grief. Yeah, and that happened like 10 minutes into the movie. Yeah. That one, and then when you had that, I loved the scene, the coloring of it with the overhead camera shot.
Dude.
That part was unexpected when they're in the middle of like a shootout and the guy's still alive, and he's like, I'm gonna get him, Dad, and he bends him over the table. I was like, well, that's unexpected. I mean, I wouldn't put it past those guys to do, but yeah, when you're still like, trying to get the quote unquote dog, and the, Bartel and Boris are still alive, like that was I'm
gonna get him, Dad, this read a different, like you think he's gonna kill someone, like it's such a bizarre movie, like, and it, like, that's why I love it. It's like everything said with so much conviction. It's why I love David Lynch movies. Like, even the more insane and the more abstract the way characters act, the more believable they are. Like, if you say something, but you like, if the actor delivering that line is so convinced in what they're saying that I believe it, even though it's clearly fucking strange or weird or whatever. I kind of love that, and this movie is full of, in terms of that, everyone in this movie committed to the role in a way which is commendable, even though it is on paper absolutely fucking nuts. Like not even like, there's not a second of this movie which anyone should be like that. This is a serious role I'm playing here, right? Yeah, I'm like I fuck a pig. All right, well that's cool, right? But I'm doing it seriously though, right? That's cool. It's just as everyone, I don't know, everyone acts so much so unnatural that it feels like that's the way they're supposed to be, but as a result, it makes it even weirder. And it's a weird thing. Like, if you're listening to this and you haven't experienced Calvaire, experience it. Like, watch it and see what I mean. Everyone is giving everything to the roles, and that's what makes it weirder. It's like no one's like winking at the camera, so to speak. Everyone's playing it deadpan, and that's what makes it unsettling. Like, had someone played it like over the top, I will fuck this pick. You like, you know what I mean? You'd be like, all right. The fact that no one's, this is my cow I'm looking for. Like, had someone done that, there'd be a part of me that'd be like, all right, I get it, it's a movie. But because everyone acts the way they do in the movie, it kind of makes it land. Serbian film does exactly the same. There's one of the reasons I admire it whilst not liking it. The main character in that movie is throughout the entirety of the movie playing it completely straight, even though there are times in that movie where stuff is happening around them which is so absurd that you almost kind of feel like there should be an Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of stick around, kind of line in there, which never happens in that movie. And that's kind of what sells it. Calvaire does the same thing. Everyone plays it totally straight, even though everything that's happening around them is utterly preposterous. Makes it land more. I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. Right, Cole. Let's bring this in for a comfortable landing. You know, as I know, as the listeners know, we do a little thing called old school Netflix grades. When I say Netflix grades, I'm talking about like 15 years ago. Nowadays, I think it's Letterboxd, which I use, but I use poorly, which is a 1 through 5.
Yep.
The 1 is that you hated this movie. The 2 is you didn't like. I didn't like this movie. 3 is that you did like this movie. 4 is you really like this movie, and 5 is you love this movie. I will allow 0.5s on this show. I will say to you right now that after this viewing of this movie, I'm coming in, and in the past I've said 5. It's a little notch down. It's a 4.5 for me. It's between I really liked it and I loved it. This time around watching it, could see a little bit more of the strings, and it kind of knocked it down a little bit for me. Next time it might be up to a 5, but we grow as individuals when we reassess things and change. You are fresh eyes, you're virgin eyes on this one. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what grade do you give Calvaire?
Okay, so I am going to give this a 3 with room to grow, and there's a couple things that I need to either figure out for myself or get over. Mm-hmm. I found it very distracting, so the shot sequence in this drove me nuts because he would be like, for example, he'd go in his van and there would be snow or there'd be mud and water. He'd go get something out of his van and there's 6 inches of snow. He'd be going out, so granted, obviously you don't have control of the elements, but I don't know why it bothered me so much, but it kind of drove me nuts.
You don't have control of the elements, but continuity.
Right. So. Yeah, so I noticed that, and I wish I didn't. The weather was all over the place. I need to give this a rewatch because either, and this is going to sound kind of strange, but either Mark, the actor, was like putting on a masterclass, or he was a little bit like kind of mundane. Like, I'm trying to figure out and get his read on what he was going for. But I think that's going to come with a rewatch just because there was a lot of questions I had as far as his motivations as a character, and like, what's the point of the pictures, and I mean, is he supposed to just be this most charming, charismatic person, or so? But I love the fact that there was no score, and it's one of those things where
I'm so glad that you mentioned. I forgot to mention that throughout our review. Yeah.
It's one of those things with the score where it's almost like, a good score is one where you don't even realize it, and a great score is one where. But this is like, I noticed there wasn't a score, but also it emphasized the sound design, but it broke it up a couple different times, like you were talking about the scene in the bar and just how.
That's why that has impact. It's the first time you hear proper, out with the beginning of the movie, it's the first time you get a proper song, but it's played wrong.
That scene was awesome. I loved the scene, the camera down of that battle with Bartel. I think Bartel as a character is a 10 out of 10. I just, that acting was, I mean, dude, he played that to a T. So there's a lot I like about this. And there's a couple things that kind of drove me nuts, but also I need to give this a rewatch. So I'm looking forward to another rewatch, and the fact that it's a Christmas movie, I'm almost tempted to throw it on here this next week. So
I'm hoping to one day travel to your part of the world. I don't want your wife hating me because I'm the guy that made you put on fucking Calvaire at Christmas and ruined it. Don't do that. Do it, but don't have the family around, or do it like I don't know. Don't do it in a way that ruins a potential future visit from myself.
No, I'll save that for a Serbian film or something.
Me and you will watch a Serbian film together, right? And I will have a popcorn box which is missing the bottom.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Special popcorn box.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You're welcome to reach in.
Yep.
Dude, I cannot thank you enough for jumping on to do this. Like I said, off air to you and obviously on air to this. We will do stuff in the new year, whether that's me on your show, but specifically now that I know that Late Mungo is a blind spot, what are we doing here? But also I have a distinct plan for between February and March to cover some Giallo content, and I would love to have you on that to go through a review as well. However, I have this year appeared on your show as part of your massive summer series to do Hellraiser Inferno, which made me, you'll never know how happy I was to talk about that movie. Oh, dude, it made me so fucking happy. On your show, which is the Joe Blow Horror Show, this is the point where you get to pimp your wares. Where can people check it out?
Yeah, we're everywhere. Any podcatcher should have the Joe Blow Horror Show. We're going to be recording tomorrow, in fact, our Christmas special. We're going to be doing a commentary of A Cadaver Christmas. So the boys at the nightclub are going to join us for that. So we're going to watch that together. And I've already seen it, and I kind of love it. I think it's a sneaky banger that a lot of people haven't seen. So I'm excited to kind of watch it with them and chat about it as we're watching it.
Perfect. Go and check out, support, subscribe, more importantly, to the Joe Blow Horror Show. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost at the door of Christmas. I hope that whatever you do, however you celebrate, or if you don't celebrate, you have a phenomenal time over the next week or so with your families, loved ones, and more importantly, people that you care about. The podcast Under the Stairs will be away for a couple of weeks. We always close the doors and then we return in January. The next episode you hear will be my top 20 of 2024, which I'm going to be honest, I am struggling with because I have seen a lot of movies this year. I have disliked so many, it is unbelievable. Ooh. So we will get a 20 list.
Wow.
Oh, dude, I think this year has sucked for horror. It's the first year in ever. The first year since I've podcasted, where I have literally, I'm sitting looking at my 20 list right now, and any other year in the last 10 years, 11 years of podcasting, there's maybe 16 or 17 of those movies would not be in my top 10 list at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Really, I've found this year.
Just a guess if you don't know. exact.
I've seen. I did this check. I've seen about 80 horror movies.
Okay. Yeah, that's more than
like a good, like there's the ones that people have told me or blind spots I have checked out, and all the main ones I've checked out, and I just feel that the quality overall is not as good as previous years. And I've become that guy that everyone on the internet said I was, that I disagreed with so much, where they're like, "You're the A24 guy," and I'm like, I'm totally not. Look at my list. Yeah. And this year, the A24 movies have scored really, really high for me. Yep. And the other stuff, not much. There's just a lot of things have annoyed me. Like specifically a lot of things which are like, a lot of people are high on that Omen prequel. I genuinely dislike that movie because I feel that it undermines the first Omen movie with what it does. Everyone seems cool with that, and I'm like, you've literally just pissed from a great height over like a beloved classic by just copying sequences from that movie and just doing them in your movie. And if you've never seen The Omen before, and you watch The Omen, whatever it was, The Begins, The Omen Starts, The Omen Instigator, and then you watch The Omen after, you're like, oh, they did that in the prequel. And I'm like, no, you're not allowed to fucking do that, because when it came out in the 70s, no one had seen it before. Just that shit is driving me up the wall. A lot of that, like Rosemary's Baby's prequel, which was like, I don't understand why that movie exists, because, and it's acted and shot really well, but Rosemary's Baby exists, so why do I need that movie?
I do love Rosemary's Baby so much, but it's just one of those, like, why?
I literally, like, all the way through the movie, I was like that. I love the acting. I love the film, I like the cinematography. The script's on point. Why is this a movie? Like, just there's a lot of that happened in 2024 where people love things that I just thought weren't great or were ill-timed. Is the best way to describe it. Like, I don't understand why this is being released now. So yeah, my top 20 will obviously upset a lot of people. And it's been a while since I upset a lot of people, so
you do.
Well, you know what? Like, like they say, dog will bite. Dog will bite.
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. That'll be the next episode. But most importantly, thank you very much to my guest, Cole. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're checking us out on YouTube, like, subscribe, and click the bell. If you're checking us out on Spotify or Anchor, make sure you're subscribed. You get all the content there. And if you're checking out the audio version and not drinking in these sexy visages right now on the video, if you're just doing audio, some people like to slum it, make sure you're subscribed there as well. We are close to 1,400 episodes of the podcast Under the Stairs, which is silly. It's a silly number. But yeah, you get access to the entire back catalogue, all the stuff that's coming. Last thing is, have a happy new year when it arrives, wherever you are, whatever the time zone is, and whatever you're up to in this big bad world of ours. Please take care of yourselves out there. This is Duncan McLeish broadcasting live from Under the Stairs, and until I speak to you in 2025, please take care. Bye everyone.